Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. This is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 161. My pick this week, it is called The Devil on Trial.
We are going to the dark side this time. It's on Netflix. The Devil on Trial.
Tells a story about a guy named Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, who was one of the first people to make the claim that the devil told him to kill somebody.
Devil took him over, possessed him, didn't tell him, took him over, and the devil did the killing. He didn't remember any of the killing.
And obviously, do you want to say what happened to him, or do you want
let's start with first of all, the house gets rented by this guy's sister.
And hold on before you do that, because this is what it was crazy is that they discuss the possession and haunting and all this stuff that led to the possession of and then the killing and all this stuff. I actually saw that episode of the Discovery series Haunting, and it doesn't talk about anything about the murder trial and all that stuff. It literally just talks about that 8-year-old boy who got possessed, all the stuff they dealt with, and then the fact. So let's start there. Worth what you brought, which I thought was weird that they wouldn't talk about the legal trial after. I guess that's probably their idea, was like, hey, this isn't true, we don't want to lessen the idea that this demonic possession actually happened. But yes, to your point, this family gets a rental property and start to have really, really strange experiences.
Yeah, they go in there to clean up the house, and it's kind of a weird vibe, and a young boy is sweeping a room, and he's like, feels like a presence, an evil presence. He runs out of there. He's like, I don't want to go back in that house. I don't want to go back. And next thing you know, this dude's possessed by the devil.
They claim they saw this old man that would appear and warned the family that if they moved into the house, bad things would happen to them. And then at that point, they claim that the 8-year-old boy, David, would then be possessed by the devil or this demonic entity, whatever it is.
They played recordings that were like crazy and showed pictures.
Oh, dude, so they at one point, every family member would have to stay up with him while he slept, and he would just convulse and
to make sure he didn't kill anybody or make sure he did anything crazy.
It was just a bad.
All right, he's doing it again. Everybody hop in and hold him down. They'd have to hold him down. He's saying crazy stuff and
really, really, really
scary,
bad stuff.
Freaky, right?
And the fact that this is an 8-year-old boy in a time in the world where like this stuff wasn't. It's not like.
Internet, right?
Yeah, you maybe an 8-year-old could come up, maybe now pick up something like this and act it. It's not outside, and it's not to say that this kid didn't do the same thing, but
boy,
he was having visions.
Yeah.
He was then having visions during the day. He would recite passages from the Bible or Paradise Lost. Like, how the hell does an 8-year-old know that stuff? So eventually, they get the famous Warrens, who were mediums, to come in and help.
Psychic and an exorciser.
Yeah, and they did like 3 exorcisms for this kid. And at one point, the boyfriend, Arnie, I guess,
the sister's boyfriend.
Yeah, the sister's boyfriend said, "Don't take him, take me."
And they go, "No."
And that's when supposedly the demonic entity jumps into the other guy. Now
he invited him in.
Let's start with the warnings here. I am, I don't want to get too religious, but I will say that I've always been cautious when it comes to things like this, like Ouija boards and the idea that we would open up some sort of portal to either the afterlife or another dimension or whatever you want to call it, heaven or hell. I'm always cautious about that stuff because it's like, you know what? It's kind of like one of my core beliefs is that you always want to put out as much positivity into the world as you possibly can, whether that's the conversations you have with people, how you treat your coworkers or your friends or your family, or the guy that drove you to the airport at O'Hare. You put out as much positivity and eventually it comes back. Or even if it doesn't, it's still going to go out.
You're living nice.
That's all that this is. That's all that you should do. Same thing goes with negative energy. Like, you don't want to ever just welcome negative. I don't want to be
they say that happens. Like if people are like, always bitching about the bills, all that keeps coming is bills, so it is kind of like
you focus on the positive and then
maybe
you don't have
the laws of attraction. Maybe that's what's in effect. Could be,
it's possible.
There's many different theories. And is there a heaven or hell? Who knows? It could be, it could not be. Some people really believe there is, some people believe there isn't. And some people are like, maybe, but it's better to think maybe than to say, no, I'm not worried about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's better to be open-minded. don't let the devil in. But I've played with Ouija boards and stuff like that.
So back to the haunting. The thing that was crazy was that when Arnie was on there and he was talking about it, I guess at one point he went back to the property and discovered an old well that was on the property that no one really even knew about. And that's where they think this demon dwelled in. That one's the part of that where I was like, ooh, that's a little
creepy.
scary.
Yeah,
That's a little creepy.
You never know, man. You never know. Like,
but then things got even more weird. And we'll talk about that next. Dark Side of the Stream continues on 104.7 The K. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio discussing The Devil on Trial, or The Trial of the Devil on Netflix.
Devil on Trial.
Yeah, anyway, so this kid, he's like, don't stop attacking this 8-year-old boy. Come get me.
Take me.
They're like, you moron.
Yeah,
why would you do
the
that?
Warrens were like,
you
idiot. He
idiot.
should not have done that. It just moved into him. Or something.
So
and she claims she's a psychic, and that Warren Museum is in Vegas. I think his son still runs it or something, or his grandson.
Yeah,
and it's every evil thing is in there, like evil things that have been possessed or torture chambers. This guy's accumulated. Must be a weird place. I hear it's got an evil vibe.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be going to
Vegas.
I would definitely not be going to.
Let's go. We're in Vegas. Let's go.
Hey,
Annabelle, the Annabelle doll's in there.
Let's go back to the putting positivity out there while we're in Vegas. Let's just keep putting as much positive vibes out there as we possibly.
We put a lot of vibes.
Yeah, we put a lot of vibes out there in Las Vegas. He goes back and then supposedly starts exhibiting the same kind of behaviors that the 8-year-old kid was until the day of February 16th, 1981. Where he was basically involved in an altercation with some people, his cousin, his girl's cousin, something like that, ends up stabbing a guy.
Yeah.
And when he was put into the police cruiser, supposedly said, I need help because I've got a drinking problem, which let me be the first to say this. If you are ever involved in anything illegal, whether that's killing someone or you get picked up for smoking a joint, anything in between, keep your mouth shut. When you get arrested or you get questioned or whatever, the Miranda rights, they tell you have the right to remain silent. Keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. So many times people get involved in all this stuff and they just keep your mouth shut. I'm not saying go out and break the law and then I'll say
lawyer, call 863-7104.
Yeah, call Mike and Jay, and I'll tell you, I won't charge you a whole lot just to say, don't say a damn thing. Let the lawyer do that.
He says, do you know why you're here? And he goes, no. And he goes, you killed somebody. He's like, what are you talking about? He didn't remember any of it.
Didn't remember any of it. Again, that may have been due to the go. But then again, you start to think about what happened with the little kid and all these other things. And is it possible that someone could be possessed by a demonic entity and actually kill someone over it? Well, I think the hard thing for me to believe in this is that there was a motive, in the sense that there was an altercation that led.
Yeah, it was like past love triangle type thing that they said.
So
it was a love triangle.
There was, in a sense, some sort of modem or foundation.
Right, so that kind of that muddies the water.
That muddies it. If
right?
he had just walked out and stabbed some dude on the street, he didn't know, and then was at work the next day and they said, hey man, we got your fingerprint on a knife, you killed somebody. He's like, what are you talking about?
There was a couple of things that
to me that would be a lot more believable that the devil made you do it than I got into a fight with Jay and stabbed him, and then later on was like, no man, I don't know what happened. I love Jay. What are you talking about? He's dead. Well, hey man, we all heard that you and Jay were screaming at each other in the hallway, and the next time we saw Jay, he was dead. I don't care what you believe, that's what I'm going to trail it back to. That's what investigators are going to trail it back to.
We found his spandex pants in your office.
Yeah. What are you doing with Jay's leopard print underwear in your drawer, Mike? The devil made me do it again.
They brought that case to trial. They brought it to the judge.
That's the other thing. Is how in the hell, as a lawyer, that's your best defense, right?
Hey,
like
nobody ever tried it. Let's try it.
Well, that's true, but like he could say, like, look, there was this incident where this guy was involved with a girl and all this, his cousin and all these things, and he felt like he needed to protect himself. He probably could have got less time in just saying he was doing that.
Possessed by the devil, throw it out of court.
Possessed by the devil is like such a swing for the fences.
You know what's funny though? The guy brought up a really good point though. He goes, they wouldn't accept that as a defense. He goes, but they make you put your hand in the Bible and say you swear to tell the whole truth. Why don't they believe that the devil could be possessed? So
That's a good
it's
point.
a very good point he made.
And it goes both ways.
They go, they believe in God, but they don't
110%.
believe in the devil.
If putting your hand on a book that you don't believe in is going to make you to tell the truth,
Right.
there's no difference in saying the devil made me do
Right,
it and still
so-
not believing in it. Either way, yeah, it's 110% correct, and I agree with you.
And then so the Warrens, they testified there. Yes, he specified the devil. These priests testified. Ended up, they didn't buy it.
Well,
They
hold
didn't
on.
buy
We
it.
don't want to spill the candy just yet. We'll talk about what actually happened and if the jury bought it or not when we return next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 161, The Devil on Trial. So you got the media circus.
Yeah, it was all over the
Oh,
news.
dude. I mean, this was all our right at the beginning of the satanic panic.
Yeah, and
that
the
just-
Warrens have been on all these talk shows talking about
Anytime your kid
exorcisms.
got caught with an Iron Maiden tape, they were possessed by the devil.
Judas
Priest, Ozzy made someone kill themselves. All these things, all this craziness about the satanic panic in the 80s. It's so funny to me when I watch that stuff now. It's like, you may be concerned your child might be worshiping the devil and blah 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 if they're listening to Metallica or Iron Maiden or whatever you want to throw in there.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Let's not.
They said Dungeons and Dragons was a gateway to hell.
Let's not blame ourselves as parents
Shitty
and
parenting,
and society and all that's going on. Let's blame the devil. To me, it's just it's just one of those things where take ownership and fix it or don't, but don't blame something that you have literally no control. Maybe it's just easier for people to do that. I don't get it. But either way, it just cracks me up. But yes, this was definitely right in the swing of the satanic panic and definitely kicked off that whole thing where inevitably the jury would listen to all these arguments, all these preachers come through. They actually deliberated for 15 hours over 3 days.
Yeah.
I wish to God I could have been in that room to hear the back and forth about that discussion as to whether or not they could either let some guy go for killing someone because the devil made him do it or not believe the devil made him do it and convict him.
Wild, man. Like really wild.
Facts are facts. The dude stabbed someone and he went to jail. They did find him guilty, but he didn't actually get a whole lot of time.
No,
he like served 10 to 20, I think, but he only served like 5.
Yeah, something like that.
Imagine, that's the other thing, dude. What's more messed up? The fact that this guy was possessed by the devil, may or not been, or the satanic panic, or the fact that you can kill someone in Connecticut and only serve 5 years.
Yeah, that's a little wild, right? And then it got a little, there was a couple a little more muddy of the water things that went on. Turns out the Warrens wanted exclusive rights for a book deal on this and movies, and they didn't want to give the family any money. So they would say it was a money grab. And then one of the brothers, who was really not in the documentary at all of a sudden pops in and he's like, yeah, I was there for the whole thing. He goes, they were faking it all. He didn't buy any of it and says they were faking it all. The exorcism guy, the Warren, was basically feeding him what to say and this and that. He goes, it was all a hoax, man. It was all a joke. And then they find the mom's diaries at the end. They read the mom's diaries, and she had been medicating the whole family to keep everybody calm. The dad, the kids, feeding them drugs in their food every night. So, and side effect of the drug they was feeding, hallucinations.
So maybe it was the mom that
all of
made
a sudden
you
at
do
the very end they dropped that nugget on there.
You're
I'm
like,
what?
well, then, but
What?
that it goes back to the guy named Laser.
Right.
Oh, Sasquatch, man.
Oh, razor. Oh man,
Hey,
dude.
yeah, it might be Sasquatch, or it might be the idea that you've been
These
smoking
guys
meth
were
for 4
smoking
straight
meth and
days,
saw somebody.
and you're seeing all kinds of stuff. Aliens hanging out with Sasquatch. I mean, again, yes. At the end of the
Some dude
day,
named Razor.
but then that whole it completely negates what the Warrens are trying to do, because yes, she made a lot of money selling
Yeah,
the book.
and the family did not make any money off of it.
She claims, or at least sources confirmed, that they did pay like $2,000 to the family.
Yeah,
I guarantee you the Warrens made a lot
because
more money than that.
Like you said, the series of movies is all about it, right? The Conjuring, Annabelle, The Haunting. This is all based off of the Warrens.
There was
writings, right?
another book, or at least I guess Carl Glatzel claimed that the book alleged he committed criminal and abusive acts against his family and others. He said that the possession story was a hoax concocted by the Warrens to exploit the family and his brother's mental illness, and that the book presented him as a villain because he did not believe in the supernatural claims that they were asserting.
That's the guy, right.
So I guess really the end of the story is just kind of
No one really knows.
be careful who you trust and let her taste the food before you eat it. We'll get to our reviews of The Devil on Trial
Molly
next.
Crew had it right. Shout at the devil. Don't invite him in. Shout at the devil.
I guess. Or
Shout.
wear giant crosses around your neck like
Shout.
Sabbath. We'll give our
Shout.
reviews next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 161. We did The Devil on Trial today. How many possessions would you give this documentary?
I always like a good twist at the end, so I'll give it a 4.
Okay.
And it was an easy watch. It didn't draw this out
it
crazy.
wasn't long.
And I like the reference of the Warrens because I didn't know anything about the Warren Museum. I didn't know who this guy was. Now I know the story of him and stuff like that.
Just I give it a 3.5. Just because the psychic things, I think they exploit people a lot. Maybe there is people that can be mediums, but at the end of the day,
I don't know.
I don't want to put anyone on blast, but recently we got asked about a possible interview with the psychic, and the first thing in the top letter of that email said, "We will not do readings live on air." How in the hell are you going to prove to me?
What was my first request?
How in the
What was
hell
my first request? Do a reading on me on the air.
How in the hell are you going to tell me you're a psychic, but you have these things like, dude? It's reading people, exploitive. Here's my best. Here's my best example. Harry Houdini was a fantastic individual, master magician. Pick lock, all this stuff. Did not believe in magic at all. He believed in the power of himself. Right. And at that time, when he was doing his thing, mediums and psychics and all this was the buzz. And he told his wife, "I am going to die. This is the secret word. I want you to go to every medium, every psychic you can find.
I'm going to be
and I'm going to, if they say this word, it's legit.
I'm going to try to reach out to you." Yes.
Guess what?
Nothing.
She never heard that word.
Well, guess what, too? All these mediums and psychics, have they won the lottery?
And they died.
If I was a medium or psychic, maybe I'm crazy, but the first thing I would do would win the $1 billion lottery.
But Jay, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way.
Not for personal gain?
See, that's the thing.
I would let my friend Mike win the lottery then.
And then slide it over. You see, that's the thing.
I know, man, I know.
Again,
do I believe there's all kinds of realms, DMT opens doors and stuff? Totally. Do I believe all this? Yes. But you do have to show a little bit of proof sometimes. Just like with the alien things. Yeah.
Dude, don't get me started. I got this source that's got this 15-minute video. They're talking to aliens, but I can't talk about it because next week we're going to talk more about how it's garbage. It's all garbage. Show me proof. Right? And until then, you don't know any more than anybody else.
Getting there, but yeah, if you
garbage.
Claiming you're a psychic,
it's garbage.
Because I have enough knowledge of magic where I feel like I'd be able to not fall for the techniques. So
again, and that's the thing. The unfortunate thing, there are naive people in this world that want to believe what they want to believe, and there are people that will exploit that every single time. And you saw it here, right there. And unfortunately, an 8-year-old kid who was probably getting drugged by his mom, and then some con artists came in to take advantage. Dude, that's the sad story.
All right.
And then somebody killed someone and got 5 years for it.
Next week.
The devil's in Connecticut for sure, baby. I'll tell you that right now. It ain't inside that kid.
Next week. Next week, what are we watching? A documentary about one of the most successful bands of all time. It's on HBO Max. Menudo.
Oh, good. Okay, great. The proto boy band.
It
was so funny. We brought that. My wife and I brought that up recently because they were talking about like who was first, Backstreet, NSYNC.
Menudo, baby.
Well, then,
arenas. Oh, yeah, selling out arenas around the world.
Menudo wasn't the first. What about the Jackson 5? What about the Beatles? What about? I mean, we can go back and go back and go back and go back.
Yeah, I think Jackson 5 might have been the first, but they were a family.
But
Menudo was a manufactured picking boys.
You can make the arguments for who was first, but maybe who did it best. Either way, we'll talk about Menudo and Ricky Martin and all that glory next time. Dark Side of the Stream. Watch these live on Facebook or YouTube, 9 a.m. Thursdays during my show at the same time or Jay's show at 6 p.m. Follow us, like us. Share it with your mom or the devil. Just don't invite him in. I'm Mike the Intern. That's Jay Stevens reminding you we watch movies, so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.